I immediately ducked under her arm and ran to the safety of my decent-sized friends. Later that day, I saw Neil and asked him if he liked Jody. Jody is gross, she smells like Jimmy P. I laughed and dropped the subject, because it would obviously never happen. And when I left the Tard HQ to go to my next class, I was cut off by Jody. So what did he say, Neil?
Let's go.
Sorry, he doesn't like you. What? Oh shit, not again, .jpg. Jody runs over to Neil at the pace of a muscular dystrophy child. She begins screaming in some kind of high-pitched tone, almost like her own rat-car roar, but nowhere near the magnitude of Neil's. Neil takes this as a challenge and unleashes the most mind-deafening rat-tard screech I have yet heard. Jody is cut off mid-scream. The power of Neil's is just overwhelming. The Tards go batshit instantly. It was as if World War Tard had hit the Tard HQ. Miss Springer is now a little better at handling the situation, but she is nowhere near capable of handling this. This time she has the common sense to get under the desk before the stapler and her head have a collision that rivals the power of the Haiti earthquake. I try to calm Neil down, but it is futile. The Tard Wranglers finally arrive before the Tards reach full-on Hulk mode and are able to restrain them. Neil stops his screech, seeing that the situation no longer requires it, as Jody is subdued. The Wranglers pick him up and carry him out of Tard HQ yet again. I wave at Neil as he is carried out the door, peaceful, as he is every time it happens. Thank you. Chronicles of Neil. The Sticklers are coming. Be in 8th grade still. The 3rd marking period now. Neil and I have just been chilling for quite some time in class. Nothing terrible has happened in a while. I started to think that I would never see the wrath of Neil again. Hell, I'll think again. Neil had recently gotten his first cell phone. His parents bought it for him so they could keep tabs on him better and whatnot. Neil loved the new phone and texted me frequently. As far as I know, I'm the only one who texted. So while we were sitting in class one day, the teacher actually attempted to teach the Tards something. Neil sent me a text saying, "Hi." Mrs. Springer saw him send this message, unfortunately. She made the very terrible mistake of taking Neil's shitty cell phone. Neil didn't take this too kindly. In fact, he took it terribly. As soon as she took it out of his hand, he let out a rat-tard screech so fearsome it made Mrs. Springer drop his phone. At this point, Neil thought she had broke his phone and went into full-on rage mode. I made no attempts to calm him down because she had brought this upon herself. The Tards ran rampant. It was as if Neil was Lion Tard and he was leading his army of Tards against Miss Springer. All he needed was the blue face paint. The Tards commenced their attack on everything within their reach. The very same Tard as the previous time was in reach of the stapler, and this time Miss Springer wasn't smart enough to hide under her desk. The Tard grabbed the stapler and hurled it with all of his might. When it connected with Miss Springer, it was as if Chernobyl had just happened in her head, and she was down for the count. 1, 2... I didn't bother, she was fucking out. Now that it appeared as if someone had suffered extreme head trauma, I figured I might as well help a little. Turns out that Neil's hand was fine, the battery just fell out. I put it back in and handed it to him as he returned to his realm of not giving a fuck about the damage he had caused. Turns out Neil
in another moment, down went Alice after it, never once considering how in the world she was to get out again.
And simultaneously later to be behind him. See you, Neil. Don't fuck with Neil's shit. Clash of the Tards, Part 3. Be in 8th grade. Be in 4th marking period now. Shit has been far from smooth for Neil lately. As I said before, he destroyed some bitch recently and wasn't sparing a single fuck to give about it. Because of this, Tard Wrangler has been paying close attention to Neil, trying to prevent him from getting into any more trouble. LOL, nice try. During the period that I helped the Tards out, there was a major Tard emergency on the other side of the school. It required all Tard Wranglers, so he was left alone for the time being. As soon as the Tard Wranglers were out, someone was walking over to us. It was James the Dickhead, no doubt approaching to start shit with Neil. Neil was playing the Pac-Man free trial on his phone. and could not give a shit about anything else going on. James is now standing directly in front of us. James, just please leave. Go read something. I want to see what Neil is doing. What you doing, Neil? Neil is completely focused on the Pac-Man game and nothing else. James grows angry that Neil won't let him see what he's playing. James grabs the phone from Neil mid-game. As James looks at the phone, all you hear is the womp 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 sound of Pac-Man dying. Bad idea, James. Bad idea. Neil emits the rat-tart screech as he stares at James with the fury of 1,000 dirty midgets. James is now able to resist the screech to an extent, but it is futile nonetheless. His future is set the second he touches Neil's phone. Neil approaches James with very blatant, cruel intentions. When Neil is within striking range, he begins to cock back his leg as far as possible. The Tard Wrangler is now...
Okay, Desmond, while you were visiting Constantinople, we picked up a software update for the Animus. I'd like to run a couple of quick tests, make sure there aren't any major issues.
All right. What do you need me to do?
We'll start simple. Walk to the marker over there. Okay, Desmond. Let's practice climbing on these objects. Run your way through this little obstacle course.
On Earth, all ingredients are needed for life to arise. But those two things are basically a source of energy. Liquid water and organic molecules, carbon-based molecules.
That's a constraint. These are optional objectives that raise your synchronization rate. All right, Desmond. Follow the on-screen instructions and kill the 2 Templars.
Carbon monoxide, ammonia, and when sunlight strikes Titan's cloud tops, these gases join together to form complex organic molecules, which hang in the atmosphere, forming dense layers of haze. Scientists call these naturally occurring organic molecules folies.
The generic term, the blanket term for any sort of complex, reddish-colored organic molecule that's formed from the splitting apart and reassembling of simpler starting molecules. These organic molecules, these solins, you can think of them as like the Lego building blocks for life.
On Earth, solvent-like chemicals make up the working machinery of cells, the DNA and proteins that make life happen. In Titan, Pluto has an atmosphere rich in carbon. Could it too be producing solvents, and therefore, perhaps a shot of light?
All you have to do here is jump the gap.
New Horizons passed Pluto in 2015. The spaceship turned to take an image of the dwarf comet backlit from the sun. Scientists hope to capture the unmistakable haze of active organic chemistry.
The results were far more spectacular than I would have expected. Absolutely, we saw that atmosphere, a beautiful blue ring of nitrogen gas surrounding Pluto, just like what we see on the Earth. These beautiful blue haze layers are chemical factories manufacturing folds, complex organic molecules, from the simpler building blocks in the atmosphere of Pluto. The carbon monoxide, the methane, the nitrogen, all these things that are in the atmosphere of Pluto are being broken apart by sunlight and reassembled in these hazes into these wonderful, delicious organic molecules.
Synchronization levels look good now. You should be able to build the world. Time to find out what the temple wants from you.
Onto the surface of the moon. producing a thick orange-brown carpet of organic dung. Scientists hope to see something similar happening on Pluto. But they had to wait for the Horizons to send back its first full-color images of the dwarf planet.
We've been getting a lot of black and white images from Pluto, so I was very excited to see the color ones. And when they finally came in, and I saw these rich red, orange, brown features on the surface,
Everything all right,
my
sir?
first thought was, oh
Yes,
my gosh,
fine.
organic chemistry.
I'm just
But
preoccupied,
it
that's all.
almost kind of
Don't
grayish
forget your
brown, even
invitation.
sort of pinkish.
Master
And
Birch
when you
will
see
be
a
meeting
color
you
like that,
inside.
you immediately
Thank
think
you.
organics.
Where shall I
In fact,
retreat
that's
once
exactly
you're
what
done?
this is.
Front of the Opera
Pink
House.
organics.
And be quick about it. Don't expect to be here long.
I'll bring her round at once.
On the surface of Pluto, it's too cold. But if pollens are getting cycled down to the depths of the planet, they could be transported to areas where ice melts into liquid water.
Invitation, please.
And it's possible that chemical evolution
Shall I
of
take your
these
coat,
simple
sir?
organic molecules could continue there, driven by Pluto's meager heat. And perhaps, just perhaps,
Ladies
the
and
machine
gentlemen,
for simple life
you are
would
requested
assemble
to
in the
kindly
subsurface
find your
oceans
seat.
of Pluto, just like it probably did in the deep oceans of Earth 4 billion years ago.
I'm intrigued by the possibilities that the sphere of light around our sun may extend much further away from
Good
the sun
evening,
than we
sir.
ever dreamed possible.
This way, please.
So, could there be life on Pluto or under the surface of Pluto? Say no to that. Really possible.
My
Could there be
apologies.
life on Pluto? I don't think so. It's my own personal opinion. You know what? You can take flour and butter and eggs and chocolate chips and shake them all out and throw them in an oven. You may not get a cookie. What you're probably going to get is one. You're going to get a mess.
Evening,
While
Haytham.
scientists debate the
Reginald?
stunning possibility of
Can't
life
tell you how
being
happy I was to hear
miles
they'd
from the
mounted
sun,
this revival.
New Horizons
Gay's
turned
best
its
work
attention
by
to
far.
Pluto's tiny moon.
Have you seen it before?
Once.
Nation
My father
scientists
brought me
knew
here as a
that
child.
Pluto most likely
Though I
had
remember
5
little of it.
inhabited worlds.
I don't suppose tonight will afford me the luxury of a proper viewing either.
Just how plain we knew
No, I'm afraid it
would
won't.
turn out to be.
On to business then. You see him?
When New Horizons arrived at Pluto,
He's
scientists
seated in one
held
of the
their
boxes
breath
above.
The stairs are
to see
watched.
what Pluto's
We'll need to
moon
find another
would be
way
like.
out.
But we knew nothing about that. So everything
I already
literally,
have.
that we found out about these moons was going to be, for the first time, it was going to be a surprise.
3 years before New Horizons arrived at Pluto, the Hubble Space Telescope imaged 5 moons around the
1,000
dwarf
pounds.
planet.
My
One
apologies.
oversized moon called Charon, and another 4 much smaller icy companions. New Horizons is reprogrammed to study these worlds and to discover any additional moons too small for Hubble to pick out.
Before the flyby, one of the things that we surveyed people about was how many more moons we could find. And some guessed dozens, and some guessed a few more. And one of our top team members guessed 0. And I remember going to him and saying, I'll take that bet. I'll bet you a dinner anywhere in the United States that we will find at least one.
Stern lost his bet. New Horizons confirmed Hubble had seen all there was to see. But what incredible worlds Pluto's 5 moons turned out to be. Oversized Charon is revealed alongside Sphinx, Nix, Kerberos, and Hydra. 4 tiny icy moons, each less than 25 miles across. And they're unlike any moons astronomers have seen before.
These objects are spinning crazy fast compared to what we expected. Not only that, but instead of having the poles aligned with Pluto's pole like this, they're actually spinning on their sides, and they're sort of going around like this. Totally crazy behavior that we had no expectation of.
To understand these crazy orbits, scientists find clues in the early history of the Earth.
In the early days of the formation of the Kuiper Belt, these icy bodies were colliding with each other quite often. And just like here at the Earth, a very large Mars-sized protoplanet actually collided with the Earth to form our Earth moon system. That's probably what happened at Pluto as well.
most likely to the giant pit in June, and its moons are the leftovers from this mammoth collision. Giant Charon settled into a close spinning orbit with Pluto, and farther out, the four tiny moons orbit around both bodies, like tumbling shards of ice shrapnel. The first images of oversized Charon show a gray dead world pockmarked with the scars of its violent past. The biggest scar is huge. It appears to almost split the moon in two.
Charon is a mess. The first thing I thought of when I looked at that picture that we got in high resolution is like, this is Frankenstein's moon. This looks like a moon that somebody basically took a hammer and chisel to and broke it completely apart and then just mashed it back together.
You should have come to me. You would have found another way.
Like Charon apart. In the frozen wastelands of the outer solar system,
Then you would have known.
Scientists are left with only one option.
For what it's
water.
worth. I'm sorry.
Years ago, Charon
After
had an
I-
eternal liquid ocean, just like Pluto today. But because Charon is smaller, it cooled more quickly. The entire ocean turned to ice, and Fort Charon burst on the scene.
If you take a soda can, put it in the freezer, when the water in that soda freezes, it expands, but the metal of the can won't. And so what happens is it gets under more and more stress, more and more pressure, until it ruptures, and it splits open, and that stuff oozes out.
The system of canyons and faults across the equator of Charon really sort of represent that last gasp of geologic activity as it sort of spilled its guts out as the interior ice froze and on its way to becoming a dead world. So it's Charon's last gasp.
Charon's red-stained polar
Come
caps
on,
also
please!
catches the eye of mission scientists. They need Mordor.
I've done no wrong. I swear. Any weapons?
Is perhaps their greatest challenge.
I beg your pardon. Did you
Of all
notice
the
anyone
surprises
crushing
we're
bleed?
not really probably the most fascinating is
Try to remember.
this is the North Polar region of Charon, and for some reason it is red. It's covered in some sort of red substance. We think this is probably a tholin. It's a complex organic molecule.
Mordor appears covered with bowlines. But how? The frozen world
What are those men doing? I'm scared. Secrets. There is no danger.
Organic molecules. But bowlines must be coming to Charon to be made. But from where? The only logical answer is from Pluto, over 10,000 miles away.
How would it get from being made on Pluto to getting to Charon? We could be sure. But the thinking is that somehow this stuff is getting into the atmosphere of Pluto and being transferred that way through space to basically be deposited on the North Pole. How that works is something I don't think anybody understands. And that's cool, because there are a lot of mysteries left, and a lot of studying to be done, even with all of the data we have.
There are still many questions to answer. But we now have a handle on how Pluto works, and it's allowed scientists to imagine the future of this frozen world. Incredibly, Pluto may be about to rise from a deep, cold sleep.
And how was the opera?
Rather dull, truth be told.
Shall we be off then?
Aye. The fleet and bride.
2015,
By your
a tiny
command.
robotic probe shoots past Pluto and fires its photograph of shutters. The pre-shot images stun the world.
Fascinating.
Young
Gentlemen, I hold in my hand a key.
prior
And if this book is to be believed, it will open the doors of a storehouse built by those who came before.
impossible.
Ah, yes. Those who ruled, reigned, and vanished from the world. Do we know what it is that will be held within?
It could contain certain knowledge, perhaps a weapon, or something as yet unknown, unfathomable in its construction and
Made
purpose.
from nitrogen.
It could be any of these things,
And although
or
they're
none
not
of them.
frozen, They appear to have been liquid.
They are still an enigma, these fortresses. But of one thing I am certain. Whatever waits behind those doors shall prove a great boon to us all.
Or our enemies, should they find it first.
They won't. You seem to.
I assume you know where the storehouse is.
Ah, Mr. Harrison.
Gentlemen,
How fare your calculations?
I believe the site lies somewhere within this region.
That's a lot of ground to cover.
My apologies. Were that I could be more accurate.
That's all right. It suffices for a start. And that is why we've called you here, Master Kenway. We'd like for you to travel to America, locate the storehouse, and take possession of its contents.
I'm yours to command, although a job of this magnitude will require more than just myself.
Of course. Upon this paper are the names of 5 men sympathetic to our cause. Each is also uniquely suited to aid you in your endeavor. Them at your side will want for nothing.
Well, then I'd best be on my way.
I knew our faith in you was not misplaced. We booked you passage to Boston. Your ship leaves at dawn. Go forth, Hatham, and bring honor to us all.
But from time to time, one half of Pluto gets a super summer, thanks to the dwarf planet's unstable tilt.
We know from the way Pluto's north and south pole wobble over time that that top that represents the spinning sphere of Pluto is not nearly as stable as the Earth. Our planet is tipped over at about 23.5 degrees and sits that way for millennia at a time. Pluto, on the other hand, is much less stable, and its poles wander over time.
Once every million years or so, Pluto tips completely on its side, exposing the northern hemisphere to constant sunlight during its close path of the sun. And the warmth from this orbital shift transforms the surface of the planet. Warm, cloud,
Fresh air might do me.
Pluto's glaciers begin to emerging from hibernation. Pluto comes to life.
It's almost as if it's undergoing these periodic changes where it's warmer and colder and warmer and
And
colder.
then all will be well.
In the past, and maybe again
You sure about that? Of course. Have I ever led you astray?
Nah. Temporarily.
No, you don't sit like the others. Wait, my friend. You'll see. Well, well. Seems our esteemed guest has deigned to grace us with his presence. You might want to head back to your quarters. That deck's no place to tend a Parnell.
So I thought. And yet here you are.
Fancy yourself a joker, eh? Let's see how funny you find this. That's enough, Graves. Stay out of this.
Goes far and wide as Pluto. It changes the way we view frozen worlds as across our lives. And the possibilities is
Listen to this,
far
Hector. Thinks he can swagger on up here and declare himself king of the castle.
Please, fellas, call this off. If the captain
To
sees us...
hell with the captain. And to hell with you, Mills. Who started you on anyway?
That's kind of a lesson that Pluto has for us. It tells us that things can get a lot more interesting out there.
Pluto's really inspiring. It shows us just how long we can be. We understood that some of the theater is entirely different. But as a scientist, you've got to think, how much more out there do we have to discover if nothing else?
We're ready to go again if you are.
This is unwise.
Why's that? You think I'm afraid of you?
No. But you should be.
when the sun goes down, the monsters come out to play.
Do you yield?
Never!
Some of those stars are seen by the cycle.
How do you like these odds?
In the last decade, astronomers have uncovered a sinister side to our universe. Killer stars, with a power.
What's the meaning of this?
Cosmic scale.
Captain,
Hear about Death Stars and
explain
movies,
yourself
but
at once,
actually
Mr. Kenway.
exist in real life.
These folk, we were simply passing the time with a bit of sport, Captain.
Torn to shreds.
How about you pass the time by doing your goddamn jobs instead? I wasn't aware I was paying you to loll about.
Dozens of worlds, just like
A word, please, Mr. Kenway.
Like killing stars.
Oh, I nearly forgot. There's your knife back.
Shit.
I don't care for you, Mr. Kenway. I've had nothing but trouble since you came aboard.
Your problems have nothing to do with me.
I beg your pardon?
You're a poor leader, ill-tempered and cruel, and it's clear your crew has no respect for you.
Look, I don't want to argue. In fact, I need a favor.
Oh, this is rich.
I suspect some of the men intend to mutiny.
Really? What a surprise.
As I cannot trust any of them, I am compelled to turn to you.
And why should I help?
Because if they do intend to betray, I'm the only hope you have of reaching America alive. Well, what will it be?
If what you say is true, what other choice do I have?
Think.
But let me be clear. Should you ever dare to insult or threaten me again, I'll not hesitate but to cut off your head myself. Are we understood?
All the light entering this giant lens and cockpit is the point right there, which is maybe,
Good day.
half an inch to an inch in diameter. Look, we're already catching wood on fire, so that's amazing. That was only a few seconds.
My lunch was good.
So right here, we have more photons. So you can call this brighter. It's much brighter in that little spot.
Mr. Kenway.
Outside the lens. So
Captain?
is catching the wood on fire.
Whatever they're up to, I believe it's coming to a head.
Thousands of times brighter than the sun.
I'd best get to work.
But the superluminous supernova 15LH shone hundreds of billions of times brighter. An onslaught of photons so concentrated it would have vaporized the surfaces of nearby planets and stripped away the atmospheres of more distant worlds. A real-life mass murder planet killer. And who knows, perhaps some of the millions of worlds destroyed by 15LH could have had
You there!
civilization
I have some questions for you.
That's nice, but I ain't
For
got
a
time to
normal
gossip.
supernova,
Probably
the kill
don't have
radius
anything
is
useful
about
to share
30
anyway.
light years.
You want
We think the
information?
intense UV
Try the
radiation
cook
from a
or the
supernova
doctor.
will
Everyone's
destroy
always
the
chatting them
ozone
up.
on Earth if the supernova happens within 30 light years. A superluminous supernova like 2015 LH is so much more luminous than a normal supernova that the kill radius is much larger. Maybe 500 light years or even up to about 1,000 light years.
Imagine a volume of space stretching 1,000 light years in all directions.
Won't be serving for another couple hours. Some biscuits in the barrel if you're desperate.
Perhaps billions of living
Actually,
worlds.
I've come with a question.
What's that?
Have any of the men been acting strange recently? Said anything that struck you as out of the ordinary?
The boys cry about the rations, as if there's anything I can do about it. Beyond that, I ain't heard much. My advice, go find James. His ears are always open.
And where might I find him?
Right behind you, actually. He's the one sitting on the barrel.
How do you turn a giant star into a mass killer like 15LH? Astronomers have observed only a few dozen superluminous supernovas, but they think the secret to the formation is spin. Superluminous supernovas start light.
Are you James?
Aye.
Ethan Kenway. Pleased to meet you.
I know who you are.
I was hoping you could answer some questions.
I figured as much, but not here. Follow me.
Since we left port. Anything that gives cause for concern.
Some of the men have been gathering at night to move the deck. I've only caught bits of conversations, so I couldn't say
Very, very intense.
Is it a
But sometimes a true monster is created. There really is how powerful
little
that
brother
is.
than Captain. Mills has been trying to calm him down, but
Right on the edge of
there's
that
only so
is a
much one man can do.
Thank you for the information.
Are like neutron stars on steroids.
I only wish to see us reach the colonies alive.
Shout into the expanding outer gas layers of the dying star, raising temperatures and releasing an intense burst of light. But to get the kind of brightness produced by 15LH, you need a very special type of magnetar, the most powerful, fastest spinning magnetar we've ever seen.
It pushes the magnetar model to the absolute limits because you need the magnetar to be rotating with about a 1 millisecond spin period. That means the neutron star has to be spinning 1,000 times per second. And then over the course of the month of this explosion,
Evening, sir.
You need to take all of that rotational
things?
energy that's inside the neutron star
Calm and quiet.
and blast
Just
it
the way I
out
like
into
it.
the surrounding star to make the light show that
What
we
brings
see
you topside?
billions of light years away.
Thought I'd wander a bit. Stretch my legs.
Take care where you tread. Deck hides all manner of danger in the dark.
And almost like a perfect storm, it could be
What was
the
that?
brightest supernova with efficacy.
There's a theoretical upper
Someone's
limit
throwing cargo
to how much energy a supernova can generate.
Why?
And this thing was right at the edge of it.
Fortunately, superluminous supernovas are also super rare, so we're unlikely to have one explode in our neighborhood anytime soon. But the galaxy is a big place. There are plenty more killers out there. And as powerful as light can be, the power of dark can be just as deadly.
Supernovae may have many ways to kill you. A superluminous supernova might kill you in a death by fire, but an unnova, death by ice.
Based on land and wine? Stuck tinned fish and biscuits? Someone needs to have words with her.
Some of the brightest lights in the universe are created by young blue stars as they die in bright explosions. Superluminous supernovas are the ultimate example, but other types of stars can go supernova too. Yellow stars, like the sun, swell up as they age, transforming into oversized monsters known as red giants. The biggest of these floating stars are called red supergiants, and astronomers often see them exploding bright fiery supernovas. The bigger the red supergiant, the brighter the bang. But there's a problem. Nobody has ever witnessed the flash of the very biggest red supergiants in our galaxy. These most massive of bloated old stars have to be dying.
Any news? Each night it's the same. I scout one area, and they drop the painted barrels from another.
Now scientists have
I'm going to need to
come up
recruit
with
an extra pair of eyes.
theory.
Maybe James or
Instead of
Mills.
exploding in a
Why are they
black
doing
supernova,
this?
the
Near as I
biggest
can
of the
tell, the
red
barrels serve as
supergiants
markers.
are simply
They're leaving a
blinking
trail.
out of existence.
My theory is it's only a matter of time before
Scientists
whoever's
don't
following
use
Shep,
death
sight it
and
up!
novas
She's
as the
making
evidence
ready to
suggests.
fire!
These
Feet to quarters, men! Ready the... Brace! Everybody down!
The sun's shining, but all of a sudden, it just turns out. That's what an unknowable
A warning shot! Seems they don't mean to sink us, but board us instead! Man the cannons! Make ready to fight! I want you below deck.
Why? Let me help you secure the ship.
Do you know how to rig a sail, to load a cannon, to wage war at sea? I didn't think so. Now return to your cabin, or do I need to have you escorted?
To get an unknova. The star can't be rotating very quickly, and the outer layers can't expand much. When all the conditions are right,
secure the hatch!
They basically just
Hayton,
become a black hole.
have you been topside? A ship's appeared and means to board us.
Strange. There's no sign of mutiny. Doesn't make sense.
Ah, but it does.
What do you mean?
Did you think you could escape from London so easily after what you did at the opera? That we wouldn't notice? That we wouldn't follow?
So that's what this is about.
Surrender, and I will see that you are treated with honor.
If you wish to treat me with honor, give me a sword.
Are you sure this is how you want to play it?
Has fallen in and is forgotten to come out. Look, more realistically, what's going on is when it falls in, it just can't come out. It's created so much gravity around itself that even an explosion doesn't allow it to escape. It doesn't get to explode. It just falls right into a black hole.
So what makes supernovas planet killers? The biggest red supergiants age relatively quickly, dying after just 10 minutes.
Have at thee.
But astronomer David Kippen believes that might be just enough time for these giant stars to create potentially habitable worlds.
Planets can form pretty quickly. They can form in within a million years around these stars. So there should be time for these massive stars to form planets. And in fact, when we look at the remnants of massive stars, we find rocky planets around them. So as far as we can tell, these stars really should have worlds orbiting them.
Imagine a lone, rocky world warmed by the far distant light of a red supergiant star. Something like shallow rocks on the young planet's surface, but their warm, comfortable existence is doomed. High in the sky, the largest supergiant planet is
I told you to stay below decks.
I did as you asked. Only Mills was there waiting for me. He's the one that drew that ship here. There was no mutiny. Only him.
What do they want?
Me.
Then they can have you.
Is that so?
Catch us anyway. There's nothing to be done.
I can think of something.
You wish us to sail into the storm?
It's our only chance.
I won't do it.
Then I will.
All right. All right.
This is one of the biggest misconceptions of movies, is that suddenly when the star becomes a black hole, then the planet is going to be sucked into it. The gravity of the black hole is exactly the same as the gravity of the star, as long as it's lost in mass. From a distance, if you're orbiting a star, it's the same as orbiting a black hole.
We need those ropes secured!
Here's your star in the sky.
I told you this was
Calm yourself. I'll fix your sail for you.
The whole thing just falls into that's that. What would happen next? A long, slow, death. You're basically turning off your star.
A few moments. Getting a momentum that would never end.
Suddenly turned off the light in the sun. Life will actually it will just be like the night. It will be a little bit cooler than normal, but eventually over time, over weeks, over months, over years, the planet will begin to freeze over.
After 100 years of global ice age engulfed the planet, first the land, then the ocean.
The oceans will freeze over into a thick crust, making a little bit of liquid water will still be there at the bottom of the ocean, warmed by volcanoes.
Eventually, what you're left with are things that don't depend on sunlight to live. Maybe there are tube worms living in vents, cracks, hydrothermal vents at the bottoms of the oceans and that sort of thing. But even
We need more speed! Loose the sails! Hate them! You take the foremast! Jay! To the mainmast with you!
And the atmosphere collapses onto the surface of snow. The core of the planet can no longer support active geology. All life is gone, and the planet dead.
So these habitable worlds will eventually end up being just these spheres of light.
Whether killed by the light of a supernova or by the darkness of an unknova, planets are in the firing line from killer stars. But research recently released suggests that stars too can fall victim to murder, and some of these killings are split from a whole.
Popping an old star that's on the way to die, get more mass so it can become younger. Well, you do exactly what a vampire does. It can suck life from something else.
Materials make dozens or even hundreds of stars. The problem is spending with stars far faster. And we have to
They're all so wet. I'm slipping.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Gradual shift in color is useful to astronomers because it allows them to judge how old the cluster is.
When you look at a population of stars in one place, if you see a lot of blue stars, you can be pretty confident that that must have young stars. They couldn't have been born too long ago, because blue stars are massive, and massive stars go through their fuel quickly and live very short lives.
But in the 1950s, astronomers spotted something seriously unusual in an ancient cluster. Tucked amongst the old red stars, they found a handful of brightly shining young blue stars. New stars don't usually form inside mature clusters, so how did they get there? The only explanation? Somehow the old stars were getting younger. Astronomers dub these age-defying stars blue stragglers.
In some clusters, we see these blue stars that appear younger than they should. In some ways, they're kind of straggling behind the natural aging of the cluster. Something must be actively rejuvenating a star. But what could do that?
If you imagine these blue straggler stars were people in a crowd, these stars would look like they had been given a facelift. They're masquerading as younger stars when really they're just as old as everybody else in the world.
Make ready for our arrival, men!
Arrival? I see no land, only this interminable fog.
The gulls tell us all we need to know. Climb into the crow's nest and you'll see.
In 2015, NASA took a closer look at the Hubble images of the blue straggler cluster. She discovered that most of the young-looking stars were in binary partnerships with the corpses of dead stars that appear to have had their gas sucked away from them.
So in movies, vampires are perpetually useful because they are sucking blood from humans. And so in this case, we have stars that are sucking gas and material from other stars, keeping them looking young.
Gas is the fuel that allows all stars to burn. And with new gas, a star is revitalized. But for a star to turn into a gas-sucking vampire, scientists believe it needs to start its life in a close orbiting science pair.
If you have two stars in orbit about each other, which is a very common thing in the universe, then they're not going to be the same mass in most cases. The one that's more massive will evolve more quickly. And as it ages and evolves, it will swell up. And it gets so large that the outer surface can come in contact with the gravitational regional influence of its partner star.
A smaller star becomes the vampire. It sucks the liquid alcohol gas from its big partner, and as the vampire cooks, it burns hotter and hotter, turning a wood for blue. The vampire's victim is set dry, reduced to a lifeless stellar core known by astronomers as a white dwarf. But, like any good horror movie, this murderous tale has a twist. Exploding zombies.
There's all sorts of stories about zombies. What if the dead Dutch come back and take revenge on the people who killed them? Well, something similar really does happen with stars.
As the Goose Rattler ages, it swells so much, the dead white dwarf starts to steal some of its gas back from the vampire. The dead star rises again to become an exploding zombie.
As that material piles up, it gets hotter and hotter, and you're basically piling up tremendous amounts of hydrogen. And if it gets hot enough and the pressure gets enough, basically you have created a hydrogen bomb the size of a planet. That star explodes.
These stars can get revenge. Once the zombie explodes, it takes out the vampire that sucked its life away.
For decades, astronomers have been a number of tiny dead white dwarf stars they see exploding in the night sky. But here finally could be an explanation. Our galaxy is filled with vampires and exploding zombies.
What does that say about the rest of our galaxy? A huge chunk of the stars in our galaxy are sort of stealing life from their friends to stay forever young.
The birth and death of vampires could be the